Okay, good evening, everybody. I think we'll get the show on the road here. My name is Mark Martindale. I'm the director here at the Whitney Marine Laboratory, and I'd really like to thank you all for coming to our Evenings at Whitney. Before we get things kicked off, I just wanted to do a little homework here. We have another lecture on December 12th, where Dr. Gemmel from USF was going to come here and tell us about animal locomotion, and he's a very good speaker. I think you'll be very interested in the kinds of approaches that people use in the field to understand how organisms move through their environment. So I really encourage you to come back next month and get the last edition of the Evenings at Whitney for this semester. And before I introduce Dr. Noll, I would like to introduce two of our outstanding graduate students here at the Whitney Marine Laboratory, Lauren Kunselman and Cody Miner, and they are going to tell you a little bit about a special event that the graduate students put on for the general community and to raise money for their own travel and education support. So with no further ado, I'll hand the microphone over.
Thanks, Mark. Okay, so yes, Cody and I wanted to talk to you guys before the seminar because we're happy to announce that we are holding another Whitney Magnified event. This is a silent auction fundraiser for our graduate student organization that we started last year, and thanks to the support of you all, it was a huge success. And so we're doing it again this year. The idea behind Whitney Magnified is that as graduate students, we get to see so many wonderful new discoveries under the microscope, in the lab, or in the field, and we want to have the opportunity to talk to you about our research and share that feeling of inspiration and discovery with you all. And so here in the CMS, we have all of these selected images that graduate students have chosen that they've taken over the course of their research or their own original art that they've created, and then they donate it to a silent auction that you all are invited to attend, and you can meet us graduate students, talk to us about all of the research that's featured in the artwork, and bid on the art so that you can take home a piece of Whitney Lab with you. And we also partner with the St. Augustine Film Society to show some films throughout the event here in the CMS auditorium.
So it's going to take place Friday, December 13th, so the day after the next Evenings at Whitney, really nice and easy to remember. And we're building on and improving from last year. One of the main ways is that we're going to have some of the pieces available for bidding online. So even if you're not in town next month or what's going on, you can still bid and participate on some of the pieces that are being put up. And as far as where the money is going, like Mark said, is going to the Grad Student Association here at Whitney, being used to invite in speakers, go towards a technology fund to help upgrade some of our equipment and things like that. Yeah, it's going to be a really great time. I hope to see you all there. And make sure after listening to our great speaker here today, we've got little postcards that you can grab as a little reminder for you. So with that, I'll hand it back to Mark.
All right. Okay. Okay, great. So it's really great to see our graduate students being proactive and they're taking sort of ownership of their own education. And it's been quite gratifying, again, to see them sort of step up to the plate and provide some of these cool ideas that we can use to help generate interest in their work. And it's kind of fun because we have a lot of fancy equipment, really expensive equipment, for example, and some of the data that these students are generating is just really, really beautiful, and I think hopefully you'll be able to appreciate that. So I told you about next month's Evenings at Whitney. Cody and Lauren told you about Art Magnified. So now what I'd like to kind of do is introduce our speaker of the evening, star of the show, Dr. Stephen Noll. He took his undergraduate degree at William and Mary, and then he moved to Gainesville, I think in the mid-70s, somewhere like that. It hasn't left since, I don't think. He has multiple degrees in special education and a PhD in history. He has a very wide range of interests. The last time I heard him speak, he was talking about the Florida barge canal and the issues associated with the tearing down of the Rodman Dam and things like that. So today he's going to tell us about manatees. And I think it's going to be a very nice lecture for you, especially if those of you who are new to the Florida area. And you can learn a little bit more about some of our charismatic megafauna. So with no further ado, you're going to use this other one, right?
I'm using this guy. Can you guys hear me? In the back, yes? Okay. So I'm here representing UF, but I'm not here by myself. I'm here with Hugh. This is Hugh Manatee, and Hugh goes with me to many places. He's got his Florida and the Sunshine State Rediscovering Florida's Waters t-shirt, so he will be helping me, and if I make any mistakes, he will be here to correct me. It's a pleasure to be back here. I've spoken here twice before, once on the Cross Florida Barge Canal, and once on Florida and the natural environment regarding water, but now more specifically we're going to be talking about everybody's favorite animal, rats, no, manatees. So manatees, they are, and I'm a historian, so I'm not going to talk much about science, but they are in the order of Sirenia, which is interesting because in my classes, the hashtag is #WordsMatter, and Sirenia, siren, like those ancient mariners thought that the siren call of those mermaids would bring people to crash into the rocks. And the assumption is that the mermaids that they're seeing are these guys. So I think they probably needed glasses, but manatees, four orders, four of them within this order. The West Indian manatee, the one that we associate most with. The dugong, which is in Africa, has a different tail, but the West Indian manatee is our manatee, and it grows to a length of 9 to 15 feet. Some of them have been even up to 18 feet long. Weight somewhere, at an adult, somewhere between 500 and 1,800 pounds, but some of them up to 4,000, right? Pretty big guys, okay? Babies born, because they are mammals, okay? They are mammals, born 70 pounds, right? Pretty darn heavy, right? Gestation period for the mother is usually around 12 months, and one at a time. And that's why, they are problematic as far as increasing their population. Full year of gestation, one per gestational period, not very fecund, as they say, right? Once in a while, they may have twins, but not often, right? And weaning, the period of gestation, when they eating from their mother, drinking mother's milk, is 12 to 18 months. And then it takes another 12 months for them to wean. So they're pretty much mama's boys, right? Mama's boys and mama's girls, which is kind of nice. So they're an order of the Sirenia. There they are. Torpedo-shaped herbivores. They eat vegetation, meat eaters, which is a very nice thing. They've got specially designed teeth that allow them to do that. Live saltwater, freshwater, estuaries, brackish water, right? And they're found here. Other quick facts, here they are, right? Oldest known manatee, 65 years old. We'll talk about Snooty as the talk progresses, and Snooty no longer with us, sad. But interesting, right? So we're not sure how long they live. How do we figure this out? We'll talk about this as we go along. They are wonderful creatures as far as people loving them, but that's not always how it's been in Florida. So we're going to talk a lot about that and the relationship that Floridians have to these creatures, right? How that's changed over time, how it's changing over time, how they've become beloved and by some people and hated by other people, right? So there it is again, the Florida manatee, right? At Crystal River, there they are, right? Umbilical cord, right? Males, and some level of mammals. Again, numbers. Not a math guy, but right? 485 were found at Three Sisters Spring on the West Coast. Typical 15 feet, critical water temperature, and we'll talk about that. They are extremely sensitive to changes in water temperature. As water temperature decreases, they can be stressed by the cold. So that's why in the wintertime, they coalesce around warm water places like two things, springs and power plants, which is really interesting. So that is their range. You can see their range goes all the way up here in the winter, in the summertime, right? Throughout the Caribbean, hence the name West Indian manatee, right? All along the coast of South America, right? You can see along the coastline, along the Bahamas, in both saltwater and freshwater, right? Another map of where they are. Again, where's Manatee Central? Florida, right? Not Louisiana, not Georgia, but Florida, right? And all around the entire state and all the interior waterways as well, right? Again, another map, right? Another map, and you can see that they have been found in the summer as far north as Cape Cod. And certainly, as we have, well, I wouldn't say the elephant in the room, but I'll say the manatee in the room, which is sea level rise and temperature of the water rising, they are going to be moving further north. Kind of like mangroves along the shoreline, right? Mangroves are moving up the coast of Florida. Manatees may be moving there up to be normalized in places like North Carolina and Virginia, maybe in 20 years. So maybe it's not right to call them the Florida manatee anymore. So there we are. They are people, right? Enjoy barrel rolling and playing follow leader. We have anthropomorphized them, right? Oh my God, they're just like big people, right? In the water, playing games. And I guess that is both positive and negative. That is both positive and negative. And certainly our visions of them talk a lot about this stuff. Most manatees in Florida have scars on their back from propellers. And that is one way of identifying who these creatures are. We'll talk about other ways, but certainly we'll see that this is manatee Hugh, and Hugh has a scar on his back this way, right? But next year, you might not be able to recognize him because guess what? He could have another scar, right? So, but see pictures like this, we say, oh my gosh, or in the parlance of the students, OMG, right? They're just like people. There they are, in the water, wonderfully stuff, right? There they are. Okay? And again, they are solitary creatures generally, not in the wintertime when they congregate at places like Blue Spring on the St. Johns River or in Crystal River on the West Coast. And there are hundreds of them. But generally they are solitary creatures except for when they mate or when mama is with her baby. And mating, I mean, these look like these wonderful creatures. You don't want to see pictures of the manatee mating ritual, okay? Pornographic. It's just, pretty bad. I mean, these are gentle creatures, but when the males get together to try to mate with one female, it's not a pretty sight. So there's mom, and I don't know. Hard to tell whether that's son or daughter, right? But we know that that's mom, and he's feeding right there. So, okay, that's kind of a background of manatee natural history-wise, right? So this is about manatees in Florida culture, how we, you guys, Floridians, or snowbirds, or people who have been in Florida for 4 generations, or people who have been in Florida for 4 weeks, react to, interact with, respond to manatees. And one of the first people who talks about them in any kind of scientific or natural phenomenon is this man, William Bartram. And William Bartram is a Philadelphia naturalist, wealthy guy, so he can afford to be a naturalist. Learns this from his father, John Bartram, who is also a Philadelphia naturalist. And in the 1770s and 1780s, they come down to the southeast, which is at some point a rather frontier-like area. Not many white people living here, still punctuated significantly by Native Americans, and they're here to examine the newly acquired British territory of Florida. Florida is acquired by the British in 1763 at the end of the 7 Years' War, and Bartram and his father come down here at some level at the request of the king and his ministers to kind of talk about or examine and draw, because they're artists as well, draw what's going on in Florida, the natural fauna, the natural flora, see what kind of plants are there, see what kind of animals are there. And his book is called William Bartram's Travels, and it's still available today. And certainly it is a remarkable compendium of what Florida looked like in the late 18th century. Of course, Bartram's pretty much of a liar, because he maintains that, St. Johns River is this pristine river. Well, he owns a plantation on this river, which is not mentioned in his travels, a plantation that is where enslaved Africans working the land, raising sugar. It's a failure. But when he comes down here and says and writes the book, he doesn't talk about that. He talks about the beauty of natural Florida untouched by white human hands. And the one focuses on two animals, right? He focuses on alligators, which are remarkable creatures, seem to be out of the Stone Age, right? And manatees. And he goes to Blue Springs in Volusia County, which is west of Daytona, in the wintertime, and writes about these guys, how amazing it is. And of course, the name that everybody calls them, they call them manatee, but what else they call them? Sea cows. So, and he talks about the wonderful sea cow that's living in Florida. Here it is. Bartram at Blue Spring. There's Blue Springs, right? And right there. And he also goes on the west coast to a spring on the Swanee River, which flows into the Gulf of Mexico. He also goes to a spring that he names Manatee Spring, right? So he's spotting manatees in this spring, names them, so he goes to the East Coast and the West Coast and sends this stuff back to publishers in Philadelphia, which is the largest city in British North America, and to London. And people eat this stuff up because they are entranced by these strange creatures. I mean, they've never seen a sea cow. They've never seen an alligator. And, his stuff about this is pretty remarkable, right? And so, what do we do with these things? Just blob around in the water, right? And certainly we talk about Native Americans and their love of the land, right? Well, what do Native Americans do with manatees? They don't worship them. They don't put them on license plates on their canoes. They eat them, right? They eat them, right? They use their bones for tools. So, manatee is part of the natural environment. Native Americans are part of the natural environment. So it's a normalizing thing for them to, just like they eat deer, right? Just like they shoot deer, they shoot and eat manatee as well. And certainly, as white settlers come to Florida, they do the same thing. So manatees are a source of food for people in the late 18th and into the mid 19th century. These are Native Americans. These are Seminole Indians. This picture is taken in the 1930s as part of the Farm Service Administration stuff, where they are looking at how people live away from cities. And there we go. Native Americans eating manatees, right? And very different from our perception of what they are. And then, after the Civil War, Florida becomes a tourist attraction. And what's the tourist attraction? It's not Disney, it's natural native Florida. One place where they go to is Silver Springs. Unbelievably, the center of Florida tourism is Palatka. Think about that, right? Now why? Why is Palatka? Because Palatka is on the St. Johns River, and steamboats come from Jacksonville there, and they transfer travelers and tourists to smaller boats that go down the St. Johns and down the Ocklawaha River to Silver Springs. And what do they see? The beautiful twisting, turning, narrow, canopied rivers, the fish and the wildlife that are there, but they also see manatees. And so wealthy Northerners and the tourist season hadn't started yet now. It starts Thanksgiving because it's too damn hot, and it lasts until Easter, right? When it gets too damn hot. So they've got to cram all this stuff in that short time period, and those boats travel there, and those boats see and spot manatees in the St. Johns and in the Ocklawaha. So much of this stuff is reported in newspapers, right? Newspapers not from Florida, but Chicago Inter-Ocean, which is a major newspaper in Chicago in the late 19th century, right? Indian River steamer carried a live baby manatee on the tank on deck. Remarkable, right? Okay. Remarkable. Amazing. Their flesh is better than beef. Their hides equal to walrus. So, they are attractions, kind of like elephants, right? Kind of like seals that are meant to be seen not necessarily in their native habitat, but on board. And then we can use them, right? They are productive for us, right? Their flesh is better than beef. Anybody here eating manatee? So you can't tell me whether that's true. All right. So there's lots of them, right? We're not sure how many, but there's a lot of them. There's a lot of them. This is from the Ocala paper. Manatees multiplying. Now, amazing. Already the assumption is in the late 19th century that these creatures are under attack by, let's see if I can go backwards, by people who are eating their flesh and tanning their hides. So numbers appear to be going down. And in the late 19th century, remarkably, the state of Florida, not the nation yet, but the state of Florida passes a law to protect manatees. It is among the first laws in the nation designed to protect a native species. Tied in at the same time with Audubon movement to protect birds, right? But because of this protection, the Ocala's paper says they're rapidly multiplying. That the fear felt some time ago, this curious, and this is in my classes, we have #WordsMatter, all sorts of nice adjectives about manatees. Here they're curious, right? This curious aquatic animal would soon become extinct. And certainly throughout much of the 20th century, that's the concern. Are manatees going to become extinct? And here they're going to become extinct, not because of boats smashing into them, not because of pollution, but because people are hunting them into extinction, right? And anybody got their phone on? Or you're not like my students, okay? Who invented the phone? Alexander Graham Bell, right? But guess what? Alexander Graham Bell also loves manatees. Here he is, in the Tampa Times, 1905. But look at this. Look at this. There's no reason to doubt that herds of manatees can be easily kept in confinement as private property. So what are we going to do with herds of manatees? They are sea cows, right? So we can herd them and we can use them for food and for hides, right? Just like cows, hence the term sea cow, right? In fact, it practically like they'll become extinct. Although a protected herd with suitable protection, this herd will increase, right? And make an important food supply for Florida and the world. Think about this. This crazy stuff, huh? Crazy stuff. Right? The flesh was much prized, valuable for its hide and oil. Certainly hunted like Steller's sea cow, a relative of the manatee. Now what? Extinct by the beginning of the 19th century. Hunted like walruses, right? Okay. So all these newspapers, and this is just great. Here's from the Miami News, right? Manatees attract attention, right? There they are, right? The sea cow group. Female has a trick. Water's drawn from the pool. She is so large and heavy, she's probably more comfortable on her back. Rolls over, and again, they're here for our entertainment. Right? Appear to be affectionate, right? Aquarium has received a pair of manatees from Lake Worth. Female, 8.5 feet long. They were captured by Alligator Joe. So now we'll talk about this guy. Alligator Joe is one of those amazing characters in Florida history. He is to Florida what P.T. Barnum is to New York City, maybe. A guy named Warren Frazee, born in Jacksonville in 1873. Frazee reinvents himself as Alligator Joe and reinvents himself as maybe an Indian and a black guy, maybe an Indian and a black guy and a white guy, not some white guy from Jacksonville. And he begins to market exotic Florida animals for people to see. We live in St. Augustine, you do. We know the alligator farm. This guy is the original alligator farmer, right? Here he is with the manatee. There he is, Palm Beach, right? There he is. Looking every bit like the traditional Florida cracker, not like some guy growing up in urban Jacksonville. And he does wild things. He wrestles alligators. He captures them in the ocean. He wrestles manatees, and he develops his thing called Alligator Joe's Animal Farm in Palm Beach. Amazing. On the island of Palm Beach, which we know today is a pretty fancy place. Some famous guy lives there, right? In a place called Mar-a-Lago. But right across the road from Mar-a-Lago was a place called the Everglades Club, which is among the most Tony places in a Tony town. To get in there, you have to fork over 35 grand just to be able to be maybe vetted to go in there. This beautiful building built by Addison Meisner, who was the architect who developed Mediterranean architecture in Florida. Okay, what the hell has this got to do with this guy? Well, before the Everglades Club was there, on that plot of land, this guy has his alligator farm and attraction. 10 cents to get in. Go and see alligators, you go and see monkeys, and you go and see manatees. He also opens up a second one along the Miami River in Dade County. And remarkable. People love this stuff. Joe's manatee dead. Okay, now, not only is he having there, he takes them on the road, which is unbelievable. How do you get a manatee from Florida to New York? You put it on a train. He puts these manatees and alligators on special train cars with huge tanks and ships them up to New York, ships them up to Philadelphia, and eventually ships them out west to places like Denver and eventually San Francisco. But obviously, these guys aren't going to do too good, right? Joe's manatee dead, right? Battery Park, Lake Worth again. Has them there. This is what the Herald has to say. Death from pneumonia, which is going to be really ironic because in 1915, Alligator Joe will die from pneumonia. So, great favorite with children. Be seen as a mounted specimen in the Museum of Natural History. That's the big museum in New York City. So this is a big deal. It's not some carnival barker guy on the side. This is big, big business and also science, right? So amazing stuff, right? Another male sea cow will be obtained in the aquarium to accompany his Commodore's female mate, right? Just remarkable stuff. Just remarkable stuff. There it is. Now, Alligator Joe means all over the place in the first decade and a half of the 20th century. The purpose of capturing two manatees, or sea cows, right? The privilege, so county commissioners say, you can do this, right? They'll bring them back and pen them up in his aquarium. Of course, it's spelled wrong. About a mile up the river, we'll run a zoological garden this winter in Miami. So he is in Palm Beach County and he's in Dade County, right? And famous, all over, right? Famous. And in 1915, he takes alligators and manatees cross country to the great San Francisco World's Fair. After the San Francisco fire, right? San Francisco coming back to life. And this is one of the chief attractions of the fair, seeing Alligator Joe's exhibit. But guess what? The alligators die, the manatees die, and Alligator Joe dies. But a fine specimen of the Florida manatee was donated by the late Mrs. Warren Frazee, his wife Cleopatra, which again is a whole nother thing, to the California Academy of Science. I mean, again, not some small thing. I mean, this is a big thing, right? Skin and skeleton have been saved. Into the 1970s, this was there. And they finally said, this is just too perverse to have. But, again, biggest manatee caught by Alligator Joe, right? 7 miles northeast of Miami. He's in the ocean trying to find these manatees, right? Several hours of hard work. String of boats towed 4 or 5 miles, right? 12 feet in length, 1.5 tons. The largest sea cow he ever saw, right? So when he dies, at some level, manatee experience dies with him. So we're going to move to other stuff, which we're beginning to see, maybe they're beginning to die off again. Beginning to die off. This is 1913. And this is remarkable. Talk about anthropomorphism. Man-like manatees, these queer creatures. I don't think this has anything to do with sexuality here. Again, describing what they are, right? Describing everything. In some views, the head is surprisingly man-like, though far from beautiful, and no specimen has ever sat on the rocks and combed its golden hair. Again, talking about the assumption that these are sirens, right? That these are sailors on the high seas for days and months and weeks, right? See these creatures and think that they are beautiful women. Palatka Daily News. Joe is dead, but sea cowboys have a job roping the manatee. Party from West Palm Beach having the time of their life. Lasso a sea cow, right? So it's all about, again, taking them into consideration, capturing them. Not a man on the pursuing boat just taking. So it's kind of like Jaws. Although these aren't dangerous creatures, but these guys going out there and it's big. I mean, look at this. Party from West Palm trying to lasso sea cow. Mammal breaks through net and carries off windlass. Page and a half on this stuff. The hunt was over, right? Papa Mammal was off to Havana to see the races, right? Off goes the windlass. Amazing stuff. Northern tourists pull the sweater and the manatees rose slowly to the top. Amazing, right? And here we have now pictures, right? Manatees go ashore. This is from the Tampa paper, right? And there we go. Or sea cow again. One of their number was wounded, 1,600 pounds, until he was killed. Okay, right? Apparently been wounded by a harpoon and by gunfire. Captain Parker shot him to relieve the misery. They are protected now by 1927. They are protected not just by the state of Florida, but also by the federal government under the auspices of Theodore Roosevelt. So they're protected, but obviously that protection is not working very well. So again, Key West citizen. Now, again, 1930. Conducts search for rare manatee, walrus-like sea cows. They're not man-like now. Now they're walrus-like, right? Almost extinct. So we're going to, scientists from Swarthmore College is going to study this. Now, there are secrets of respiration as yet unknown to man. Remember, aid conservationists in preserving why a warm-blooded mammal is able to stay underwater for such long periods of time. More than $1,200 they've taken traps of. Interesting. So now, because they're going extinct, we want to study them. So now it's not just Alligator Joe, it's scientists from Swarthmore who are examining the manatee. Lots of newspapers, which I think is actually pretty good. Bradenton, 1941. This is a day that really we shouldn't be reading about manatees, right? Something else is going on. Something else is going on, but that's what's wonderful about newspapers. You go look at the newspaper to find out about Pearl Harbor, and guess what? There's articles about manatees. And this is about Bradenton. And Bradenton is in Manatee County. And Bradenton has a river running through it. And what's the river called? The Manatee River, right? So that's what this is about. And again, county and town take names from herds of sea cows, right? Have you ever seen one? Probably not, because apparently they're going extinct again. And we're not sure. It appears that there's less of them again. Less of them. So, I mean, look at this. A penalty of $500 for killing them. That's a lot of money in 1941. I don't know. It's a lot of money now. I don't know how much that would be today, but $6,000, something like that. Seeing these mammals playing in the river, right? They're herbivores, are especially mild and unoffensive. They're to never fight one again. They're very gentle and will feed close to a boat. So they're nice guys, right? They're nice guys, which may lead to the fact that why they are so close to extinction, because they don't fight. Another Bradenton, Manatees stage show in the river. This is during World War II, right? Super rare when a herd of 3 is observed. And again, as we've seen, they are solitary creatures. So now, a 3, many years ago, manatees were a common sight. Old timers say. We know about old timers. But they have become virtually extinct, and it's a rare occasion when 1 is seen today. Now 3, right? One of the manatees, the judge, okay, these are big people. Doc visiting manatee had a head shaped very much like a cow. It had a bellow that sounded just like a moo. 1961. Now, this is really interesting. By the 1960s, UN men, this is just a wonderful alliterative headline. Holy cow, the sea cow. UN men eye manatee mowing machines. What does that mean? Well, there's lots of invasive plants in the water. Water hyacinths, by the mid-1960s, hydrilla. Maybe we can take herds of manatees and use them to eat this stuff up. So now we can save them by having them be useful to us, right? Useful to us. Just another dream, right? Because of its bulk, manatee cannot be turned on its back. Well, we just saw a couple of slides ago that female manatee is sitting on its back. So we're not sure, which tells us scientists really don't know very much about them, right? Some scientists refuse to believe it was the manatee that inspired the mermaid legend. They refuse to believe that one of these unlovely creatures could ever be mistaken for a woman, even by a sailor who had been at sea for 4 years. Right, so I mean, just wonderful stuff. St. Pete Times, yeah. The mermaid weed killers. Hyacinth director would like to corral herds of sea cows. So we're going to use manatees to help us deal with problems in the water, right? Manatee, now this is just, I mean, now. Huge, awkward, ugly vegetarian, right? Okay, we're not going to. 15 feet long, 2,000 pounds, 3 stomachs and a voracious appetite. And what's it going to eat? Water hyacinths. Keep us up indefinitely. So we're going to use these guys, right? We're going to use these guys. Except scientists sign into FaceTime. Okay. John, what's going on? I got sign into FaceTime here. Cancel this. Okay, there we go. By 1970, we're not able to use them because it's just ridiculous. Hungry manatees won't solve lake weed woes. But getting the monstrous marine denizen to the dinner table is a problem. Now they're monstrous, right? Just as soon not even discuss. People are asking this. Funny stuff, right? Why couldn't you just cross your manatees with walking catfish and let them worry about getting back and forth between here and Miami? Now, look at the numbers. Look at numbers. 1970, there are only about 400 manatees left in the state of Florida. Okay. Interesting. So again, 400 means that they are on the verge of extinction. They're on the verge of extinction, so we're not sure what's going on. And we don't know numbers. Numbers are rather difficult to find before we have better ways of determining how many there actually are. It's 1984. Biologists suggest government control of manatees. I don't know what that means. What's that mean? What's that mean? The few remaining manatees by 1984, few remaining, UF wildlife biologists. Mark, you know this guy? Crazy. Don't adopt, Floridians don't adopt the bee whisker. If you can get local people to see these animals as their manatees, then they're much more likely to do what needs to be done to guarantee their continued. So legal protection is meaningless unless laws are implemented and enforced. So by this time, there's a notion that we have to do something to protect them. And certainly, after World War II, proliferation of people moving to Florida, A, because of the warm climate, and B, proximity to the water. And everyone wants waterfront property, and if you have waterfront property, what do you need? A boat with a big-ass propeller, and a big-ass propeller that puts big-ass scars on the backs of manatees, right? So, there we go. All right. Pretty awful. Pretty awful. Lots of these just, lots of them. So, by the mid-'80s, Florida is beginning to figure out that coexistence between watercraft and manatees is a difficult proposition. So what are we going to do? Scientists are figuring out zones where manatees tend to proliferate, and maybe make these zones of no wake so that boats go slowly and propellers don't slam into the backs of men. So this is a state poster developed in 1983. Props kill manatees, right? Trying to get things like this. Slow speed, minimum wake, manatee zone, right? The assumption is that's where they are. And manatee, endangered Floridian. So that's important, endangered Floridian. So how do we know how many there are? Well, scientists, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service from the Florida, what was called the Florida Freshwater Fish and Game Commission, from UF, from FSU, begin to track them, putting tags on them, on the back of them, radio tags, so that we can see, how many there are, who are they, where they go, because we're not sure where they go, right? They go to Blue Spring in the wintertime. Where do they go in the summertime, right? They go into the ocean, they go down the St. Johns, they go to Jacksonville, they go back into the Indian River. Where do they go? We're not sure. Right? And so scientists begin to do things like this. Here now we're capturing manatee, not to eat them, not to tan them, but to put the tags on them so they can go back in the water. And these are big animals, right? Need big stuff, right? Need big stuff like this. Look at this. Big operations to do this, right? And not just scientists, but volunteers helping. And the assumption is this is going to do what? Provide scientific knowledge and expertise so that we can help save the manatee. And then, among the strangest combinations of individuals come together to really put the manatee in the public eye. Governor Bob Graham. Governor Bob Graham, I knew very well. Remarkable man, governor, senator, two-term governor, three-time senator, state legislature before that. Remarkable in his protection of Florida's natural environment. But this man wouldn't go to bed without a suit and tie. Just buttoned down to the max. Jimmy Buffett, entirely different type of guy, right? Carl Reefer, right? Pot smoking, interesting fellow. Graham is in the governor's mansion in 1981. And his daughter says, Daddy, I want to go to a concert, the Leon County Coliseum. Okay. Daddy, I want you to go with me. I don't go to concerts. So they go to see Jimmy Buffett. And as the governor, he gets to go backstage after the concert is over. And the two of them get to talking. The two of them get to talking about Florida environmentalism. And the two of them get to talking about the animal that most reflects the fact that Florida's going to hell in a handbasket, environment. And that's the manatee. And they establish in 1981 SMC, the Save the Manatees Club. There they are. There's Graham in his tie. There's Buffett in his open shirt, right? There they are, right? There they are. And money is going to come in to protect them. There they are at a race in which they're raising money at SeaWorld for manatee protection. There's Graham and there's Buffett, right? And so what do we do? Well, here it is. Save the Manatees Club. And designed to provide money for research, but also for public knowledge of what's happening to manatees. And Save the Manatees Club that comes up with this incredible idea: adopt a manatee, right? Adopt a manatee. We'll give one a name, pay $20, you can adopt that manatee. We'll send you a picture of them, we'll send you a certificate. My son had a manatee like that for years, right? Not in our bathtub, but somewhere, right? You know, and again, the picture, look at that. I mean, how can you not love these guys, right? Save the manatee. Amazing, right? Amazing stuff. And where else are we going to get this? Well, manatee license plates, right? And first manatee license plate. And again, this is just hysterical. State law, state senator, state representative, and Jimmy Buffett. They can't put all his letters on there, so it's Manatee Buffet. You know, so it's like Jimmy Buffett is going to eat the you know. But here's the first manatee. Guess what? That's from my car, right? That's from my car. Hugh likes that, right? Here's the next one. But is this working? That's the big but. Is this working? Where's the money going to? This is a quasi-public agency, Save the Manatees Club, getting money from state organizations. What's happening? How are they spending the money? Are they really helping manatees? Certainly, they are providing an unbelievable way to ensure that manatees are up front in the image of Florida. So we've come from utilizing them, eating them, finding them ugly and disgusting, to having manatee festivals everywhere. I mean, all over the state, right? All over the state. This is in Jacksonville. This one is in Blue Springs. This one is in Crystal River, right? And at every one of these festivals where they have a booth for Save the Manatees, right? Prize drawings, you got everything. So it's about knowledge. It's about knowledge, right? Here we go, right? See all this stuff, but it's about knowledge. And maybe the most iconic manatee is the one, this is Snooty. Snooty lived in the aquarium of the best place, Bradenton, which is in Manatee County on the Manatee River. Snooty was born in a, captured and then lived for much of his early life in the Miami Seaquarium. They moved him to Bradenton in the 1960s, and he lived there forever. Right? He lived there until he died in 2017 at 69 years old. Right? And amazing. I never got to see him, which, we'll go next year. We'll go next year. Well, 2017, he dies, not from natural causes, but because he gets drowned in an accident in the hatch. So, I mean, horrible, right? God, so, I mean, certainly, live to 69 is a ripe old age for a creature. Now, whether they live that long in the wild is another thing, but certainly, that's amazing. So, solitary creatures, not necessarily in the wintertime. This is Blue Spring in Volusia County, taking in the warmer water of the springs, which is about 73 degrees. Water's cold. Other natural animals, right? Amazing stuff, right? And federal government and state government are now responsible for protecting them, particularly on the West Coast. Crystal River National Wildlife Refuge. Is anybody been there? It's an amazing place, yes? You swim with them? Yeah, I know. So amazing that at some level we're loving them. So we got all sorts of different places. Federal Manatee Refuge, Federal Manatee Sanctuary, Crystal River National Wildlife Refuge, all there. And Three Sisters Spring is the kind of the main attraction up here. And the interesting thing, of course, is this is an economic engine driving the economy of Citrus County. Thousands of people spend millions of dollars to come and see these creatures, take their pictures, walk along them, kayak with them, or swim with them. Amazing, to the point that we may be loving them to death. And interesting, this tells you maybe how smart they are. All of them are behind the line except for this guy, right? I don't know what, someone told him, don't go past the rope, right? But this is at Crystal River, right? This is at, and you can see that belying the mythology of them as a solitary creature. And again, this is all in the winter. And here they are. Manatees and kayakers. Manatees and snorkelers. Again, not so ugly there. You know, who's the ugly one in this picture, right? You know, manatees and, I mean, look at that, the iconic picture of the manatee with that curved thing, right? They are. And on the East Coast, Blue Spring, off of the St. Johns River. Now they're gentle giants. They're not ugly creatures, right? Interesting pictures, both taken by myself and professional photographers. Look at all of them. That's taken by me. It's amazing. Look at them all. Taken by this guy. That's taken by me. Just amazing stuff. That's taken by me. Now the interesting thing is, I went there, January day, it was cold. Maybe a couple thousand people there. Amazing. Cars lined up all along there. Stop when a car leaves and only another one can come in. So this is really interesting. Count 638 there that day. At some level, that's almost the same number that they said existed in Florida total 50 years before. Now, what's the question you have? When is this stupid talking to me over? Yes, but besides that, how do they get the numbers? How do they know? We asked the docent, and the docent said, we count them. I said, really? I mean, how do you know it? Yes, they said, we know. We know which ones are. So it's you know, just not science, not any kind of technological stuff. It's people pointing and counting. So that's a lot. It's an amazing number, right? Amazing number. And also on the West Coast, this is Homosassa. Anybody been there? Interesting. It was a private attraction that, what they have there? They had all sorts of wildlife from all over the world. And when the place goes belly up, as all these local Florida tourist attractions do with Disney, they got to get rid of the animals. And so what do they do with them? One stays. This hippopotamus named Lou. And Lou's there, and Lou's like 80 years old. But some legislator raises his hand and says, Lou can't stay because he is not a resident. So Governor Lawton Childs made him an honorary resident of Florida so he can stay there. But now its attraction is the manatees that live naturally in the river. And there's kind of two places, natural ones, but there's also, that's it, that's Homosassa, right? You have alligators there, but you can see they've got them in a underwater place where you can go under that dock, and you've got glass things that you can see them from under there. And then you can also go out onto the river and see them in the wild. So those are really interesting places, but also places like this is manatee viewing area in Tampa associated with the power plant. And look at all them there. Now, docents would have a really hard time counting all those, but again, human development is helping manatees, which is just kind of incredible, counterintuitive. There they are at the Apollo Beach plant right outside of Tampa, right? And we got some problems. If we want to end global warming, we're going to have to end coal-fired power plants. If we end coal-fired power plants, what happens to these guys in the wintertime? Because they have been accustomed to coming there every winter, right? There they are again. Amazing stuff. And Silver Springs, manatees are there. And this gets back to the talk that I gave about Rodman Dam. Silver Springs is at the end of the Silver River, which runs into the Ocklawaha, which runs into the St. Johns. Manatees have to get to Silver Springs by going through a lock on the St. Johns River. And so, are they there? Not near as many as could be, but when they're spotted there, it's amazing. So, I took that picture too. I was there with my family, and manatees are there. It's amazing. They're there. Silver Springs, again, mom and baby. You see the big tail. And you can see small propeller scar right there, right? Vulnerability of manatees, right? All over the state, right? All over the state. Highest level. Mostly along the coastline. And mostly because of interactions with humans. Manatee mortalities due to watercraft collisions. Again, where? West Coast. People with powerboats. East Coast, right? Not so much even along the St. Johns, but along the Caloosahatchee, Everglades, even in Everglades National Park, right? Keys. Tables, scientific tables, how many are dying? Significant numbers, right? Total. How many are there now? 2018, supposedly 6,000 manatees are living in Florida. How do we know that? We're not sure, but we do know that we want to appreciate them. So we have Manatee Appreciation Day, last Wednesday in March. There we go, right? Well, just wait. There's a better one coming up. And so you guys are, I'm not going to say, you guys are old enough to remember when stamps mattered, right? My students have no idea even what a stamp is. Here they are, 32 cents, right? Now, the great thing is, this was issued in 1996, and there was a contest to see what the picture of the manatee would be. And it was a big brouhaha, because the assumption was that the design that was selected by the United States Postal Service was an ugly manatee. People went crazy, so they had to change it to this, which is nicer. And then there's the one, this is this year, right? Of course, they have to cross out the forever, because the assumption is that I will take this and try to use it, right? But that's the new one. That's the new one. So they have become iconically familiar around the state of Florida. They're trivets, right? They're in people's classrooms, right? This is from a teacher who taught next door to my niece in Naples, right? And they're on tote bags, right? And the best picture of these are, Hugh loves them. I'm going to have him look at this, because this is his favorite one right here. There they are. Right? There they are. Right? Very different images of ugly, horrific, useless creatures, right? Or creatures that are going to be used by us. Now we're not using them. Calendars. Everybody got their 2000. This is the Save the Man. Everybody got their 2025 man. I'm selling them afterwards. So again, Jimmy Buffett and Bob Graham, voice for manatees since 1981. That's the kind of official photographer for manatees. Many of the pictures that we saw at Blue Springs were from him. And then statues all over the state, right? This is at Lowry Park Zoo, right? This is in Key West. This is in the governor's mansion, right? Amazing. Right? This is a bronze statue by Sandy Proctor. We got Gator fans here? Anybody a Gator fan? We know Sandy Proctor? Anybody go to the football game? Well, you probably don't this year because what do we got statues of at Ben Hill Griffin Stadium? What? Who are they? Danny Werfel, Steve Spurrier, Tim Tebow. This guy made those and this. So this is going to be next to them. So we got three. We're going to have 3 Heisman winners and the bronze manatee. And the interesting thing is, where's this guy live? Tallahassee. In Bradenton, along the river, right? Mom and child, right? SeaWorld rehab facility. One of the 2 major manatee rehab facilities in the state. The other is Lowry Park Zoo, and there's also one in Miami. But again, mom and baby at the rehab facility, right? Homosassa. Not only can you see real manatees, you can see this, right? Another one in Bradenton, right? So we have the one downtown along the river. This is along the waterfront, right? Downtown Jacksonville, right? And everywhere, mosaic ones. Manatee Lagoon, West Palm Beach. Manatee Park in Melbourne, all over, right? This is Blue Springs, okay. 638 plus this guy, right? He's right there, right? Remarkable, remarkable. And along the Caloosahatchee, in a manatee no-wake zone, right? Here's Manatee Appreciation Day again this year, right? And tied in with our stamp thing, manatee mailboxes, right? Right? And, you know, Funksters. My students, Ben Hill Griffin, with Hugh. Right, there he is. And there's another one of the manatees in my office with all these Florida books, right? And there's Hugh trying to find his friends. There's Hugh and his friends at the bar, right? And during the pandemic, what did everybody do? Jigsaw puzzles. That's the jigsaw puzzle my wife and I did. Right? There we go. Great book about all this stuff, manatee insanity. The war over Florida's most endangered. Okay? The war is that there are groups of people who think that we are presaging manatees over people. It's my right to do what? Drive my boat as fast as I want. And the manatee's in my way, tough. Right? So it's a great book. This is a very different book. This is the latest scientific research about manatees. So these 2 books together give us an idea of what's going on and how we can save them. Manatees have been on the endangered species list since 1967, even before the endangered species law came into effect in 1973. So that's amazing. And as we've seen, Florida and the feds put it on some kind of laws protecting them since the late 19th century. Amazing. But we'll talk about what's happening now, right? Numbers going up, right? Now, people who don't like manatees say it's a good thing that manatee deaths are going up. Why? Because if more and more are dying, that means more of them are living. That's their. Now, okay, now, I don't want to get into politics, but during the Trump administration, the manatee was delisted from endangered to threatened. What that means is we have done such a good job of protecting them that it no longer is endangered, it's just threatened. So we're relaxing some of the rules, right? And Save the Manatees Club has been arguing against this delisting since it happened in 2018, right? And numbers up, there it is, right? Mortality on the rise, right? Now, not just because of collisions with boats. But increasingly, because of water pollution and the pumping of water out of Lake Okeechobee into the Caloosahatchee River and into the St. Lucie River and eventually into the Indian River Lagoon, leading to unbelievable algal blooms. They eat plants, but they don't eat algae. And so manatee skeletons, they are starving to death on the Indian River, right? Brevard County, starving to death. So what are we going to do? What are we going to do? There's a dead manatee, right? Not killed by a boat, killed because they couldn't get enough to eat. Look at how many died. 649. That's as many as were at Blue Springs that day. Now, what are we going to do? Give them lettuce. We're going to give them lettuce. We're going to try to figure out a way to fix this, right? Florida Plan to Save Manatees is working. 25 tons of lettuce, right? Attracting all these manatees, right? Now, this guy's alive. Florida Power and Water Discharge Canal, getting fed. Now, how do we know this is working? You're not going to want to listen to this. We're seeing more fecal matter in the warm water site, which means manatees are pooping, which means what? They're eating, so things are good, right? And there it is. And there he is. Okay, that is lettuce. And they're eating it. So it seems to have been working, right? It seems to have been working. Maybe, right? Latest manatee deaths last year, but you know, despite emergency feedings. Is it working? We're not sure, because numbers are so difficult to figure out, right? Automatic grows, but falls below record pace, right? Picture in the canal, again, discharge from the Florida Power and Light plant. Deaths, right? You can see, and again, right? You can see all those. Causes of death, 25%, or fully recorded. We're not sure. We're not sure why they died or how they died, right? Natural causes, okay. Just like us, we're going to die, they die. Almost a quarter die of natural causes. Cold stress, they can't take water colder than 65 degrees, right? Perinatal, bad births, right? Other human floodgates and locks, you know, particularly like I've seen manatees crushed at the lock on the St. John's. Awful, right? Other undetermined watercraft, right? We're not sure, right? Now, these guys, citizens for Florida waterways, right? Now, this is what we want to do with the manatee, right? There we go. These guys, right, where the men are men and the manatees are marinated. And this is not a cartoon. This is real stuff, right? Save the Manatee Club wants you to believe the manatee is endangered. They are lying, right? So this is at some level about culture wars. It's about culture wars, right? I can do what I want. Right? And then we got this. I just found this today, and Sean graciously uploaded this into this thing. There's a new movie filmed in Tampa last year. No wake zone, killer manatee. A manatee has been genetically altered by eating radiated food and turns into some giant thing and is killing people. Now, I don't think it's ever made, but this is just great, right? So. Effort to reduce global warming, hurting manatees, right? And there they are once again at the discharge plant, right? I mean, that's a great picture. I didn't take that. I wish I did. There they are, and there's the power plant in the background, right? So we're almost over. Right? Bad. Just last month, Fish and Wildlife Service is proposing revisions to critical habitat, right? Habitat so that we can protect them. This is, again, put in place just at the end of the Biden administration. And there's some words down here that we can't read, but I'll read them for you. It says, tagged manatees in the St. Marks River in Northwest Florida. This is near Tallahassee, right? GPS receiver coupled with Argos satellite transmitters encased in floating tethered housings provide accurate locations to enable the Fish and Wildlife Service to monitor detailed movements of individual manatees. So, helping but we're going to expand protection for them, right? Now, whether that's going to happen. But we saw Manatee Appreciation Day is in March, but guess what month we're in now? Manatee Awareness Month, because this is November. So that's why I had this month. Okay, all right. So let's end with this. This is the T-shirt, and this is, I was at a talk in Palm Coast, actually, in January, and we were at the beach. It was cold. It was really nasty. It was a wonderful beach weather to walk, and there was a car in the parking lot, and I saw this. I said, we got to take this. So I think this is remarkable. But as is this. Breathe deep, glide through your day, have a gentle spirit, enjoy time alone, eat plenty of greens, keep your whiskers clean, and live large. So with that, thank you. If anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Thank you.